to understanding that ladder for the superstitious, intended for the repeating, or for the repentance and repetitive, completely for the complicated and the competitive. No compensation for the anything to say that for the commentator for the really is rare. Rearrange the bump, the horror bumps in the rear. Groundwork like that with the rebar for the debate. Rebuttal for the rebuilding of the repercussions and deprivations of reparations and repeal. Repeating for representatives with an alternative for the tensions outside the intention for the intent for the rally. Rally for the generally, generate that for the hot Jimmy G's and gene pools to justify the genetic. Generate elections to the edge, electrifying the energies for the charge to get the month into this Robert. You been changing that was the Bill of Rights for the left, distracted for the couldn't stand up in muddy water complaints. Dehydration, conservation, the tube for the tolerate. Terrains for the rain, pay that dues. And living in the terrors of the terrible city for the losing the height and the sight. Divided the citation for the striking of the fireworks to get it worked up for the patriotic for the protest of the patriarchy. Lying and patron for the bars to get shot by the police and patrol. This is the patron. I can find a patron living, no living, but the limited, the limitation, for the limited, for the limited edition, for the you can't stand a reunion of this new edition to find the rain. Comedy PD for the no for the joke and no zero for that can stand up me and look and I'm doing my stand up for the enemy for the interview. No joke. I can find that doing stand up. I can find that for the owner to stand up for myself with the compromise and the public. Never the promising but the kept quiet, completely lenient enough for the developer, the deviant, the deplorable for the owner, the circumstances deployed, and deprecated for the deprived until the detrimental for the definitely the other determined to be the undeterminate. Execution for the execute. It is the executive for the executed for the expedition for the expedited for the expect that X to be asking question about the why. Well, Z cast that words for the lies out that mouth for the spell check, and then the subject for the check out the sound of letters. You can be seen and heard, and like the obsolete libraries and you heard and read about the history or another fictional story that is this is to be the patriarch for the fans of the patriots with patronizing patterns in the pack for the packs and the backs of those in front of them. Uranium, the fake planets, and like you can beat the odds with the plot out the bleed the plane. Example for the ignorance and the artificial intelligence for the aliens and the alienate themselves for the front and form of break with head leisureism for the games and plagues. They play out for the doubt, for the doubt, for the disbelief, the gift for the benefit, the doubt, for the taking back for the debt. You're deprecated of the rose and pay that they deprived. The fuel to cold is fire in the streets, the cancer, the complaint about the pavement, the copay, compliant, complicate, communication lines, age, lineage, God, leaner, leader for the rare, leader enough for the raise, that raise, and sure those assholes' assumptions to apparently appeal to the parents, the pair for the laughing stock, and the kids that kidding around in the future. Dark kid named Indigo for the bright, it is India, and then India for the out of there for the minds of the listen, the media to give them medals, and then even mediate for the metal listen, for the medieval for the reconciliation, the reminiscent for the renaissance, and the history to revolve around an evolution. Instead of that institution for the boundaries, constitutional for the contest and the contestants, to contemplate for the conversation to be compelled for the wise. W2 ways and fill out the poor for the blood for this, be the institution alive for the constitution for the consistency for the consonants, consonants for the test of those for the consonants. Pronounce the word by these advocates for the straight and the happy. Difference the contrast to the contrary. Contrast, compare companies, compare competitors. Compensation for those who want them to complain for the corporation when they put into a business. You're breathing for their trees and then you won't even care for the mixing, but you won't even know about the spending time with them for the working and buying into the season. You shop with the patterns and partnerships. The artists and all the find a conversation completely comparative imperatives. Taunting tones from that with read about the newspaper that will lose. Try to know with the speed of ignorance and they hate that for the wait for the redistributed, the destructive for the constructive, the constructors, the statues of liberty for the liberals, left and right for the rights and left and you can find it inside. I for the crime, they see for the deficit, for the defeated for the groundwork, they crown at that, disconnect for the souls, they walk for the shift, they over to find that dislike for the dyslexic, for the walk on God for the sunset, for the race to hate, the finishing line, that for the fish, fish that line of sight for the seafood, food that we don't want to see ourselves, eat that for the food chain for the total polar opposites of the polar bear for the barely made it to the extension for the exempted the experience and it takes that example for the very X that axis for the pits, arms for the army for the articles and the articles and the gun magazine for the articulating with the word and the art to find the attributes, attribute for the abs and the ad normal for the snowman for the snowman, melt that for the sea for the open the snowball, know the effects for the change of the climate and organs and all of y'all have evolved and orgasms and organic sex and parties and the both after the pose of the pubes and find the portals and pubes and I find the publish the soul and negative.
completely for the complicated, for the competitive, for the no compensation for the anything to say that, for the commentator for the really is rare. Rearrange the pump, the horror bumps in the rear. Groundwork like that with the rebar for the debate. Rebuttal for the rebuilding of the repercussions and deprivations and reparations and repeal. Repeating for representatives with an alternative for the tense and time outside the intention for the intent for the rally. Rally for the generally. Generate that for the hot Jimmy G's and gene pools and justify the genetic. Generate elections to the edge, electrifying the energies for the charging of the monthly subscriber to the changes that was the bill of rights for the left and the distracted for the couldn't stand with muddy waters complaints. Dehydration. To understand, need that letter for the superstitious, intended for the repeating, for the repentance and repetitive, completely for the complicated, for the competitive, for the no compensation for the anything to say that, for the commentator for the really is rare. Rearrange the pump, the horror bumps in the rear. Groundwork like that with the rebar for the debate. Rebuttal for the rebuilding of the repercussions and deprivations and reparations and repeal. Repeating for representatives with an alternative for the tense and time outside the intention for the intent for the rally. Rally for the generally. Generate that for the hot Jimmy G's and gene pools and justify the genetic. Generate elections to the edge, electrifying the energies for the charging of the monthly subscriber to the changes that was the bill of rights for the left and the distracted for the couldn't stand with muddy waters complaints. Dehydration. Conservation, the two for the tolerate, to rains when it rains, to pay that dues, and I live in the terrace of the terrible city for the losing the height, the sight, to fight, the citation for the striking of the fireworks, to get it worked up for the patriot, for the protest of the patriarchy, line a patron for the bars, to get shot by the police and patrol. This is the patron, I can find a patron, living no living for the limit, the limitation for the limited for the limit, the addition for the you can't stand a reunion of this new edition to find a rain. Comedy pity for the no for the joke, and those over there can stand and leave you looking, I'm doing stand up for the enemy for the interview, no joke, I can find that doing stand up, I can find that for the only to stand up for myself, for the compromise of the problem, never the promise about the quiet, completely leading, and for the development of giving you the horrible for the morning to success deploy, deprecating for the deep pride, until the detrimental for the definitely the other eternity be undetermined. Execution for the execute. It is for the executive for the executed for the expedition for the expedited for the expect that X to be asking question about the why. See cast that words for the lies out that mouth for the spell check. And the sympathy for the check out the silent letters. You can be seen or heard and like the obsolete libraries and you heard and read about the history or another fictional story that is this is to be the patriarchy for the past and the patriots with patronizing patterns of the pack for the packs and the backs of the room for those who front of them. Uranium, the fake planets, and like you can be the asshole that plot out to be the plane. Example for the ignorance of the artificial intelligence for the aliens and the alienate themselves for the front of the plagiarism for the games and plagues. They play out for the doubt, for the doubt, for the just be the given for the benefit of the doubt, for the taking back for the death. You're deprecated of the rose and paid that they deprived the fuel, the cold, the fire, the streets, the cancer, the complaint about the pay for the copay, complaint, complicate, communication lies, age, lineage, God, linear leader for the rare, and enough for the rage that raises short of assholes assumptions. Apparently appeal to the parents and the pair for the laughing stock of the kids that are kidding around the future. Dark kid name, indigo for the bright, it is India, and then India for the out of there for the minds and the blessed, the media to give the metals and medieval mediate for the medicinal, for the medieval for the reconciliation, and for reminiscent for the renaissance and the history to revolve around an evolution. Instead of that institution for the boundaries, constitutional for the contest of the contestants, to contemplate for the compensation to be compelled for the wise. The W2 ways to fill out for the core for the blood for the this be the institution alive for the constitute for the consistency.
In the words, the bird is what they say. I really didn't get that frame anyway. It was in supplement of a perfect copy, laying the hands under those cheeks, laying under the pillow for the lawful enough for kissing. You can have that for the swelling, for the seam, that for the part for the sun. Angry to rubber for the such a bliss, and this to beat the pill for the revenge did it long for the this to be the cause they did the wrong for the bad for the embedded for the fair for the hand. It wasn't for the rearing, and I can find those who was perfect. Not like to look like a daisy in the field of grass, that for the show, for the unmelting for the smooth tone, the sight for this delay, for the pretty bird, the bird over the rest of the body, for the you can fall asleep with the fastest sleep, enough for the ice and never to be slow, for the close and lay for the imprison, for the beauty for the more, yet for the doors forever such this and stuff made for the broken, good breaking. I can find the self in the scorn, throwing another kind of life and about that place. And she turns her smiles and smiles still, for the came near that face and beings. Would you find some noble and now I can find a hair, and then divided for the part of the cheek of the water, the lips in this spot. I can find it's rude enough of the breath, but the still I find the wise is drought. John was salt, falling short, curled back at the ring, something to turn again for the body to depart for the something unkind and held inside them. What is it I'm trying to figure out for this is psychology for the man-made? Who mind find that's the state of man? Split that for the true beacon. Speak of the rebellion with the kids, you can find it, and for the folks in mind enough is you can find it. Likewise, it's important for the free thinking and lesbians, and maybe the same for the reactor, for the turncoat, for the he was raised, and never another for the consultation, for the explanation for the thinking of your who. Find this Greek murder, no matter for the person with that multiple mental disorder. One with that for the nonsense split off and not know who this self is, expression that will open to the press. Name for that for the Uber that wants to be helping other for the life of the right and for the best, and the flick of the rings and the radio on the reason, and I can find it. Full of get simple for the can't have voice to read for the rhetoric, side for the nature, voicing that is you. You are the knife for the teaching of the former generation, frenzy for the distaste in a certain direction. What was the cue you used for the decipher for the code for the just and how you were not told enough you were being told. How I find that ironic. that dirty face, and where did you get such a face like that? I got it for the crawling along that dirt, and maybe they was the batted new buttons off of the shirt, and chewing the roots of the rose, and digging for the clams in his yard, and I find I knows and got a peek into the dark cave, and I found that for myself and the Navajo brave. Plain cold been something changed. Sign my name for the seaman with the champion. I got it rolling around over the rug, and even over the you can find a hug, and find it lost and silver for this beating back in the end. For the I can never wrestle tears, having more fun than I've had in years. That was supposed to be a joke. Stuck in a loop with the slick and enough for the information to lustre with something good for the timing to fold it over that for the soup before for the standing of the visual. Vital, vibe for the pop inside, for the vibe for the Mars, and for the forces, the diagrams, and like that was anxious. And our part attack for the bait and chasm. You can find that for the better, the swinging it for the worldly grace, and the model for the torment we folded over the other ones we remember to get up to be. I find that peak for the gleaming and bold. So content for the game for the jiff for the icon, the way on the plea over that for the I was pissed enough for the tucked out for the crevices of the mattress pad or something like the folding of the leak in the headlight for the you can find I already updates with the sweat. No sweat for the through the downtown for the find the loop. This is the counting room. You can find the method for the wash. You mix up with the breath for the feather feel like a bird for the twitching of the offshore like a warmer of a heat. Art glad for the left to right. You can find that for the weird steep. Watching the fullness of the suspended for the internet floater. You can ocean of the air for them on that ozone for the lily pads and the embers with the dope. With the busting of the thirst, I can find the depth of the mode for the just for the night we do told for the stories of the river, the future for the clairvoyant, enough for the certainty for the clothing, but you can find the spectacular enough to fit to you that matter that they each by ferocity. I should have been bolder. Told up in the border, but I'm older with a wish that I wish I knew that for the turning over what you can find include for the distance on the constellation coming along that's the is the well for the holding the walls together for the host that floor wet together for the such one for the meaning the distribution for the deviation inside that for the guy and sticks this past the earth on the earth's crust this is be the stairs on the find the acid enough for this find the spoon and fork that for the truth that eat the swallow for the enough for the digestion with the fact one doesn't hope to have the clouds that have the answer for the hope for the clouds that have the answer. If you know how to find that lyrics fit enough to be tonic and you can't find the male inside that pale female part for this would be the fanny pack at 4 o'clock. Or the who knew that for the streets would be so liquefied for the lurching of dames. And this would be the brawl for the sand for the hair for the distance stands for the shirt and stepping with the beer for the band and led by that fighter skirt for this would be led by the compliment for the century with over the glass of this march. I think that for the pride for the march and the ride it's on the side. Expect that for the remember the names and you can find that for the wherever you wave to for the gleaming of the glare sky. This would be the choosing of wine. I find the grip of the hand of the grave and the wondering what it is to death for the never really turn to keep the leader and find out what's inside of me. Christ.
Whatever the money to find in the story that you can have the places you can keep your head in for the over the Bible losing yours and not be blaming on you for the trusting yourself for the men to doubt that you can hide allowance and you for the doubt that you you can wait for the ever to be tired of waiting but the light about for the doctor and deal with the lies and you be hated but give it away for the hated for the devil to look too good on you for the anyway for the talk too wise and if you can dream and you can make the dream a master. Think that you cannot think thoughts of your aim and me for the trump and disaster and treat those with the imposter just the same for the bear for the hear the truth and you've been spoken to for twisted to with the name. I can make it trap for fools and watch the things you gave. I find your life to be broken and stupid. You're found in building love with your burnout tools. Not stupid but stupid build. And after you can make one heap of all your winnings. Risk it all and turn the pitch and toss and dissolution. Start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss. And you can force that head start for the nerve, for the never, the cinder for the server. You're over too long, over there gone. Long of gone for the holding on for there is nothing in you. Except that for the will, but what you said then hold on. You can take the crown. You can define the virtue true for the kings in order to lose the kind of touch and leave neither the foes and nothing for you. You're you for the main count on you for nothing too much, but you can ever feel the unforgiving, the minute for just thinking seconds and worth that for the distance. Run. Yours is the earth and everything that's in it, for which is more you'll be. Run. You never take that car. You never float afloat for this to be the wings and float it over here for this to swim. Or just to find the things and maybe the science and anchor for the unless you roll through the country over the kind of day for the coming along for the this to be the oversight for the free for the this to be what kind of software for the us of that for this delivery for the country for the never for this to be the what you can find that for the other I can condescend a body a frame miss nothing home to pieces away with that thought for the taking of your wings. There's a magical place in the middle of this poem where the truth lies in everything.
One for the gift of the friendship, one for the void for the all curiosity, rather that for the interest of the matters. Touching that for the Lord himself, born and after the life for the who was born, for the fine, the line for the giant, for the you could be the star, for the different, need that milk, for the camel, for the men, for the this to be the whale, so who could be the Platonius and never the play the idiot, for the compromise, it was something rare. If it had been perfect enough and normal, so shyly for the this to be stripped down, for the sheet off, for this to be the drinking of what you find the fruit of your nectar, and set it to find the liquid of the language and had never been heard before, but such as this that I spoke it. It was a dialect that for the folly for whoever knows how to read that clue. You've been molded, I've been told. That was an old school.
Besides, there's a fact that all school made.
It was all Besides,
there's a fact that all to be made. Besides, there's a fact that all to be made. It was all considerated. Consider for this to be the place where you messed up, where your word was obliterated. Obviously, you can find a different passage, a different frame of technology or your intelligence. Your mentality, just another fundamental. Ain't enough that this is said you the overrule over me. Or imaginary, you can find a vision, find imaginary if you can take it or hint. Well, you're not believing yourself so much, but I do want you to believe.
Peace.